The taboo, the stinky butt crack of cultural acceptability, ranging from the harmless yet worrying, like whatever E621 is, to the distasteful and abhorrent, like the tales of EDP 445. Taboo simply encompasses the untouchable concepts of society, concepts that weigh heavier than most. But because we are unwilling to talk about them, it feels unexplored. There is a level of curiosity. It's like when you see a manhole cover and think, man, I could just go down there. It seems horrifying, cold, moist. But what smelly secrets lie within? And this disturbing curiosity is satiated by the most daring of media products. However, utilizing the taboo in your media is akin to preparing fugu. Serving it wrong can have dire consequences. To delve into the taboo means to challenge the audience. This is why some of the most legendary works in media deal with taboo subject matter. It forgoes our preconceptions by challenging us with what society deems unacceptable, but unfortunately there are ill-experienced media practitioners who use the taboo for simple, quick shock, or to mimic the legendary creators willing to delve into such damned topics. This can lead to the worst way to utilize the taboo: glorification. Using taboo topics can also cut out a section of your audience. They may have personal experiences with the concept, which means engaging with it is reliving some of the most horrifying events in their lives. Meaning, you should only use the taboo if you have clear purpose for it. Also, making this video one slight misstep and YouTube will send their death squads after me. So while we will be touching on heavy topics, we will be using more YouTube-friendly language with heavy implications. And while you have my permission to giggle when I refer to things such as somersaulting or super slide, please give due respect to each topic we talk about today. However, I am also Rad Chad, the Mad Lad, and to some of you, your dad, which means I suffer from a horrific chronic illness that makes me incapable of being unfunny. And that illness is called Sagondese. It's terminal. Luckily, out of all the topics we will cover today, I am fairly certain I won't be taken out back by YouTube and shot in the head for saying the words violence and gore. If I talk so directly about some of the other topics though, they will do violence on me and turn me to gore. Violence in media, and especially in games, has been a hot topic for decades. At the core of it being the fear that people will replicate the violence they see in media. This has been disproven thoroughly countless times. And besides, I grew up playing violent video games like Fallout 3 and Fallout 3 New Vegas. And let me tell you, I've killed a healthy amount of people for my age. Usually there are negative ideas we don't want to normalize or glorify, like being creepy to girls or going on Reddit. But for violence, merely seeing violence does not make one desire to violence. There is no inherent gain from conducting violence. There is usually ulterior motive behind why a violence occurs. And in that way, the only problem is if you normalize a scenario in which a violent response is acceptable, where it otherwise shouldn't be. But I won't be touching on that side of the media discussion. For the sake of this video, just accept no, if Timmy plays Fortnite, he won't suddenly begin building towers into the sky and 360 no-scoping your neighbor Clarence and then do a gritty. He'd never do a gritty, not while I'm here. Obscene violence is a simple tool for showing cruelty to shock the audience. However, overutilization or reckless uses of violence may desensitize audiences to it, making it completely ineffective or just plain off-putting. As with everything in this video, to be used most effectively, it must be done with purpose. And no video talking about violence and gore can do it justice without discussing the video game that invented violence and gore, Mortal Kombat. When Mortal Kombat was first made in 1992, the concept of violence hadn't been invented yet, especially in America. So seeing this game show graphic displays of brutality and obscene acts of violence Well, darn hicking hell, just look at it. Don't you feel the desire to burn a man to death? Being a clear threat to society, politicians rationally decided to create the ESRB system for games, where certain games are restricted based on age. This single-handedly saved America. Now, while the initial Mortal Kombat does not use violence in any super meaningful way, it does do two notable purposeful things with it. First off, it sets up the vibe of its world. This is a brutal tournament where the most dangerous combatants duel to the death. And the second, a cultural challenge about what we can show in games. But Mortal Kombat is my example of violence and gore used poorly. Let's now focus on its most recent entry, Mortal Kombat 1, a title that made it mildly annoying to find the original Mortal Kombat's release date. Very cool, thank you. We now live in an era where violence and gore is commonplace. We've had a whole generation of multiple game franchises upping the ante in terms of gore, like Gears of War, Doom, Fallout 3, God of War, and even Fallout 3 New Vegas. Frankly, the novelty it once has worn off. But Mortal Kombat 1 still tries to be the forefront of violence. They focused on making it as obscene as possible. But frankly, it's gotten to the point that it's just gore porn. A lot of the fatalities of Mortal Kombat's past focused on creativity, unique ways to brutalize your opponent and rub in your victory. But the ones in Mortal Kombat 1 just trying to look as realistically gory as possible. This only stands out more as needless and off-putting, as the series' aesthetic leans away from its usual brutal tone and campiness, and more into we must join together and fight against evil. This culminates in a trailer that seems very confused, going from Liu Kang talking of peace to suddenly killing a man in the most gory, brutal way possible. Just because, oh yeah, it's the Mortal Kombat thing. Without the backing of its aesthetic and charm, and a double down on making it as realistically vile as possible, it turns out to just be off-putting, distasteful, unfun. It seems more of a cynical attempt at making you want to vomit than being a goofy bloody time. Which is ironic, because Mortal Kombat 1 has an example of violence utilized purposefully, and that's from Invincible. Whoopee! Invincible is about a boy fitting into the role of a superhero and all the horrors that entails, and his dad who is secretly trying to weaken the planet for his race's eventual takeover. Invincible is a show now known for its brutality, especially thanks to the world's most cheeked up dad, teaching his son just a small lesson about his lefts and rights. However, in actuality, Invincible keeps its cards close to its big strong chest, whipping out the true brutal moments at precise times. The first is Omni-Man's brutal assassination of the Guardians of the Globe, having Omni-Man do what are basically Mortal Kombat fatalities to every one of Earth's most powerful warriors. Whereas the normal villains of the show barely even go that far, is to show the level of desensitization Omni-Man is at as an ascended being. Most of the most violent scenes for the rest of the show include Omni-Man. Though notably the other character who gets the most violent scenes is Invincible himself. But in contrast, Invincible is always the one getting brutalized. It reflects his love for humanity that despite being given the most painful moments, he still goes back out to protect people. But there's a deeper reason why these two characters specifically have the most violent scenes.
It's because like father, like son, right?
You say in your sensual catty voice. You'd be right, but maybe not for the exact reasons you think. It's because they're both Viltrumites. In Season 2, where more Viltrumites are introduced, every scene they appear in become the bloodiest, most gruesome battles. The highest tier of brutality in Invincible are reserved for this bloodthirsty alien race. Invincible is the only one who purposefully takes this brutality unto himself, which makes the fight between him and Omni-Man all the more brutal. Omni-Man targets this desire to take others' pain unto himself by brutally killing everyone Invincible tries so desperately to protect. While, as we have outlined, brutality on its own can become desensitizing, seeing Invincible's horror in real time keeps us grounded in how brutally horrifying this is. It's like watching a train crash in slow motion. Oh wait, the tone of brutality is purely dictated by the observer, and thus reflects the observer's character. Invincible reacts in horror. Omni-Man sees it all beneath him, but then it also shows shift in character, when finally Omni-Man is brought down to the reality of brutality as he sees his son's mangled body beneath him. To utilize violence and brutality effectively, you need reaction, and through reaction, you can reveal aspects of character. Now we get into heavier subject matter. I hope people understand what I mean by this person was somersaulted. Somersaulting is an abhorrent act. It is morally unjustifiable, unless you're a debate club member capable of concocting the most niche of scenarios. Somersaulting requires the stripping of another's autonomy, while leaving physical and mental scarring on an individual, all for the simple, selfish, sexual gratification of another. It is impossible to present as a good thing, and for a tragically large amount of people, they have horrific experiences and memories involving it. Media that includes somersaulting can make these people relive some of their worst memories. But there are cases where it is presented in a sexually gratifying way for the audience, which means it isn't justified in universe, but glorifies the acts to the audience. Ethically examining things specifically made for sexual gratification can get quite murky. It's possible, but murky. While I won't be getting into that side of it as much, what I can say is you can't do both. You can't both use somersaulting to show immorality while also presenting it as hentai. But Goblin Slayer sure did try. I obviously won't go into any specific detail because YouTube are already pressing a 9-iron to the back of my head, but essentially to present the immorality of the goblins. In the first episode, after already showing the goblins brutalizing an entire party of adventurers, the goblins somersault a woman. This scene is shot in a way that focuses on sexually gratifying parts of her body, drawn in such a way to be appealing to our ape brains. The problem isn't just that it glorifies the horrors of somersaulting, but it also tries to have this be one of the show's cornerstones as to why goblins are evil. Well, if the goblins are evil, then so is the cameraman, sheesh. Presenting it in this way both weakens its point on morality, as well as being a distasteful way to present the act. There is no point to present it in this way, other than cheap sexual gratification for weird audience members. It cuts out people who can't view material like this due to lived experiences for no good reason. In fact, you don't need to show it at all to utilize this taboo element. Enter Fire Punch. The story about a man who is constantly on fire and punches. Oh yeah, it's not like the fire is his ability, he's just on fire and can't die. But the world is in an everlasting deadly winter, so pretty lucky he's on fire, right? While the name sounds like a fun action comic from the 90s, it treats a trigger warning list like a to-do list. But notably, it doesn't actually show the taboo elements, because it doesn't need to. Now, this doesn't mean you can't show somersaulting. You just need to know why you're showing it and show it in a way that drives that point home without glorifying it. But if you can't justify showing it, just don't. You don't need to. In Fire Punch, there are constant mentions of characters threatening somersaulting or desiring it. This is to reference that this is a world that has left morality behind long ago. The strong take from the weak freely and with no remorse. But not once does it ever show a single somersault. It does this for countless other taboo topics, mentioning but never showing. It's purposefully desensitizing you to a world where everything is fucked. So in contrast, the more down-to-earth moments are highlighted more. The only thing that Fire Punch glorifies is incest for some reason, which is like, I don't know, Pop-Off King. Fire Punch shows how you can use taboo elements to reflect world and setting. Super Slide is a hard topic to talk about. It's a hollow, tragic outcome that should be avoided. There are whole manuals on how to properly present it in media, because more so than the other two examples, representing it wrong can have genuinely fatal consequences. The first example is the show 13 Reasons Why, the show that killed people. Coinciding with 13 Reasons Why's release was a spike in teen super slides. 13 Reasons Why basically goes through the list of, God, please do not represent it in this way, it will have serious consequences, and ticks them all off. It shows the victim's note, allows them to talk after the fact, shows positive consequences of their act. It's a horrible glorification and almost makes it grossly appealing. To target this at teens, the most susceptible to depressive thinking, it's incredibly irresponsible. And instead of taking any accountability, they made 3 new seasons, where they redeemed a broom bassist and suggested to walk in front of a cool hooter and just ask him, pretty please don't. In so many regards, 13 Reasons Why employs taboo topics so flippantly without the due nuance and precautions, and it has fucking consequences. It's so bad, even a horse could do it better. It's BoJack Horseman, yes. Blackjack Horsecock is about a washed-up 90s actor trying to live life, but without the laugh and love. It's a tale of no matter how good or bad life is, it will keep moving forwards. No matter how good it gets, with BoJack landing his dream role or getting the award he always wanted, it can always crash back down. But no matter how bad it gets, like him pushing away all his loved ones, or almost getting intimate with an underage girl, clearly inspired by a dream, life will go on and eventually return to normal. So, in a show that highlights how no matter what, life will go on, how does it deal with it not? In its second to last episode, The View from Halfway Down, possibly one of the best explorations and deterrences of Super Slide. They set it in the moments just after BoJack went through with it. The episode explores his mind as it sits between life and death, mulling over all of his life experiences, then the terrifying horrors of confronting death, and finally, the horrifying realization that you actually want to live. You want to take it back. But is it too late? A recurring story between Super Slide survivors is that just after they made the decision, they regretted it immensely. This is what the haunting poem by Secretariat is based upon.
Toes untouched the overpass, soon he's waterbound. Eyes locked shut but peak to see the view from halfway down. I'm not done, hold on, I'm not done. It's all okay? It would be. Were you not now halfway down? Thrash to break from gravity. What now could slow the drop? All I'd give for toes to touch the safety back at top. I changed my mind. I changed my mind. I really should have thought about the view from halfway down.
Find your peace, big guy. Find it.
I wish I could have known about the view from halfway down.
It's raw, it's fear, it's regret. It makes you remember that if you decide to do that, there's no going back. You'll never know what happens next in your life. The limitless potential of experiences. You throw all of that away for a terrifying, regret-filled final moment. BoJack shows the penultimate way to use taboo, to completely understand the purpose of your story and use taboo to reflect it and represent the taboo topic in the most respectfully impactful way possible. Whew, Jesus Christ. I can't believe I got through that without YouTube tying me up and dropping me into a lake. I'll make this brief. I'm currently in a safe house in Papa New Guinea, but don't tell YouTube that. Their assassins could be anywhere. Basically, if you want to use taboo elements, you need to know why you're using them. Yes, for most elements in media, you should know why you're using them, but the taboo is the most volatile tool of the arts. It's not to be used willy nor nilly. You need to also think about the way you're presenting them. The reason you're presenting it should influence the way you present it, and you want to make sure those two are singing in harmony. Or you could also be using these elements to represent character, setting, or themes of the story. To be precise, you need to avoid glorification, and you need to always have a purpose. Oh god, they dropped a bomb! A bomb is falling! It's falling down on the safe house I am in Papua New Guinea! Oh no, I shouldn't have talked about the taboo elements in media! I should have listened to me more! She told me don't anger them YouTube hooligans! They are mighty dangerous! Oh woe is me! If only I fucking listened! All this could have been avoided! In fact, I could have avoided this bomb altogether if I had just left my safe house located in Papua New Guinea because it's falling really slowly! But now my fate is really sealed! Oh my hubris! Oh, if only you liked and subscribed! It wouldn't help my current predicament, but if this was just an elaborate joke at the end of the video, then that means I'm actually fine and you'd be spotting me in a very simple way. Oh.
Super Luigi Galaxy.
I wanna